Welcome to our very first week finals right here for the Trick or Treat PUBG Mobile Halloween event. Of course, this is all the North America region at the Legion level, so we are quite excited to see what is going to be happening, what our teams are going to be bringing through, and of course, we've got quite an exciting day lined up with a lot of spectacular PUBG talent being showcased out on the battlefield. I think the proper way that I actually should have said it is good evening, everybody, and good welcome. Yes, good welcome.
I was
That makes
expecting
100% sense. But of course, you guys know who we are. My name is DK, and I'm joined by the one and only Sproxy. And of course, we are joining you all the way from the lovely, sunny, slightly cold South Africa because it's quite rainy. But we're excited to see what our teams are going to be getting up to, as of course, they've been participating through this entire week to qualify for our very first week of the Trick or Treat event. We've got some pretty exciting names to come through, as we've seen the teams really grinding their butts off to make it up to here. So I think there's going to be quite a bit of excitement coming through on the battlefield here today, is.
I'm absolutely excited to see what these teams have in store for us and how they're going to be going through the weeks, moving into today's games, what they really are going to be finally putting on the table as their final showcase for this week. And hopefully it will leave us a little bit speechless, DK, because I think these teams are ready and prepped to showcase some fantastically spooky action.
Oh, yes, right. We want that spectacular performances. But, I mean, speaking about spectacular, we, of course, have a nice selection of teams coming through. When I say nice, I'm, of course, understating that entirely. We've got Strangers DB in the mix. We've got -7. We've got Semper Invicta. We've got Omega Esports. We've got the Old Gangsters, Team Aces. We've got Blinded by Win. We've got Bad Boys, Noobs Galaxy, as well as Freedom. We've got Level X Esports. We've got the Care Bears. And of course, we have then Clips Before Chicks. We saw what they did in the Community Championship. So excited to see them out on the battlefield. Of course, we've got Dope Esports. We've got Manic. We have Straight Out of Nepal. We've got the XO Zone. We've got Zero Remorse, Meter Shot Esports, as well as the Red Russia Esports team. So quite a few exciting names that we've got here. And I mean, now all we got to do is see what the teams are going to be bringing on through, right? We know they're also playing for not only the honor of taking a glorious position in this very first week, but they're also playing for their grand share of the overall prize pool.
Absolutely, and they need to bring through their performances as we take a look at those fantastic awards that will be waiting for them at the end of this journey, DK. And I mean, just, a little bit of extra padding to the pockets that will be happening at the end.
Yeah, and of course, as we know, right, so we are going to be having 3 weeks of qualifiers. This, of course, being our very first week. So after this week is done, our top teams are going to be moving through towards the finals. And we'll be repeating, rather, the whole process in the coming week and the week thereafter before we make our way up into the finals to see who our final contenders will be. And, of course, they are going to be playing for their share. As we can see, that first place being worth $1,000, and it trickles all the way down to that 7th and 8th place, where we have $300 and $200 respectively. But also then a nice little add-on to that is going to be our MVP, picking up those $200 as well.
Absolutely. You need to bring the fire. You need to make sure you put on your best performances, and you could be awarding yourselves that extra $200. So I'm very, very interested to see how these teams will be performing today, and if they will be bringing, maybe a different version of their performances than what we saw during the week, and what they might be looking to, potentially just surprise some of their competitors moving into today's games.
Yeah, and of course, speaking about surprises, right, our map rotation is going to be no surprise whatsoever. We are going to be playing it out across 3 maps today. So that is going to be Erangel, Miramar, and of course, a little bit of that Sanhok action as well. So there are going to be multiple opportunities for these teams to really show us what they can bring on through, right? As we know, Erangel being the bread and butter of PUBG. So this is where the teams will have the opportunity to showcase their talent, show us what they can do. But of course, after that, we are going to be moving over into the desert for a little bit more of those ranged altercations before concluding it with some nice close quarter altercations.
Very excited to see Sanhok right at the end. So these teams are really going to be put through the test through Erangel into, you know, the slower paced Miramar, and then just going to be finishing it off with some potential crazy third party action, which we would love to see. But DK, I mean, we've spoken about the teams, we've spoken about the maps. Obviously, we also need to mention that that point system, the one and only system that has pretty much stayed consistent throughout all of the maps that we've seen. And the teams really need to make sure that they utilize that to the best of their abilities today.
Yeah, I believe it's going to be the tried and tested point system, but we'll have a little bit of an idea as to what that is once we get to the end of the match. Of course, now we are prepping to jump straight over into Erangel. I think the interesting part coming into this very first game is to see where that flight path is going to be going, and also where that zone is going to be shifting. And more curiously, what I actually want to see is whether or not we are going to be having any impact, right, with our freaking spice that sometimes comes to fruition, as we sometimes see a few of those a little bit more challenging flight paths being presented for the teams.
Yeah, onto Erangel, it tends to be quite surprising. You know, we might have one of those more consistent first off zones, maybe a little bit more skewed either to one of the cardinal points, but it generally isn't too crazy. But then, as we know, Erangel, it has a way of really surprising the teams. I mean, one of those drastic shifts can completely throw the plans that these teams had, well, into the gutter, and then all of a sudden, they have to rework their system, they have to rework their strategy to put themselves in a more competitive position moving on forward.
Yeah, and speaking about those positions, of course, we are going to be taking a look at our flight path. It is going to be starting up into the northwestern side right there, and then amongst the lovely Georgia Pool, of course, heading straight on down to that southeastern side, stopping over at the military base. So it's all going to be down to where the teams are going to be looking to get themselves situated, right? I mean, this is a very comfortable flight path. It is going to be allowing the teams to get themselves pretty much situated to where it is that they want to be going. But I think the kicker is going to be where that zone is going to be forming. I'm hoping maybe for something over towards, let's say, that northeastern side.
Ooh, yeah, that would definitely just really throw a wrench in the works here for the teams. With that flight path heading towards that southwestern portion of the zone, then we might be seeing, you know, a much quicker response from the teams trying to get themselves situated, hopefully jumping into a little bit more of that chaotic action, and really starting off our spooky events with some spicy action. DK, it seems the flight zone is going to be a little bit more well behaved, and they're going to provide the teams with ample opportunity.
Yeah, quite a few opportunities are definitely going to be coming through. And as we now look up into that North George position, we are going to be seeing the players here from Freedom and Strangers BD, right? Getting ready for a bit of a standoff. We do see it is going to be D09, if I read that name correctly, just kind of keeping a little bit of a bird's eye view. We've got two players from Strangers held up right alongside them with Revenge now on the opposite end. So I'm kind of liking where this is starting off. The team's really getting well situated with regards to each other.
Yeah, absolutely. Putting themselves in a much better position, hopefully. But already we can see Freedom jumping on in here, looking to stop, at least stir the pot just a tiny bit. Popping out a few of those feelers in the forms of the nades, not really finding any connections just yet, but they are closing the gap. They're looking to get themselves closer into this altercation. Already a little bit of a step up here from the stairs as well.
Oh, yeah, the freak, right? Stepping up there with a nice quick trade, getting the head onto Revenge, and now it's going to be up to D. See if they can maybe just fend off the advances. As we know, Strangers BD, quite a team, right? But looking at Freedom, they've started this match off with only a 3-piece. So this is going to put them at a slight bit of a disadvantage, but nothing too drastic. Based on the aggression that we're seeing coming through from them, oh, it does seem like they've got their eyes set on the prize. And speaking about the prize, right, Noobs Galaxy already losing their first... No, instead, they actually laid waste into Zero Remorse. So this is quite a bit of a trade-off in the early game.
Oh, and I thought it might have been going a different way, but no, there is at least a return from Zero Remorse, finding one there over. But of course, we have to turn our attention here back to Freedom, who look to be in a spot of trouble. As you mentioned, they only started off with 3, now D09 with very little HP is going to be dropping on down, trying to reposition themselves as they are currently being hunted.
Oh, I'm loving this approach. Freedom so quick on the trigger there, as we can see DO9 just looking for a quick bit of a reposition. I'm knowing the fact the rest of the team is also pretty close to them. But so this is where DO9 really needs that support, right? The health bar not looking so great, but it's going to be a 1-2 split on both sides. So you can see, of course, now G9 Flash Guard on the opposite end. Volt X also getting ready to just rejoin. But now the standoff continues. We can see those altercations coming through elsewhere on the map. And as we jump back over into the container yard, Zero Remorse now looking to double down on the efforts, as we already have Psycho locking in 302 damage.
Oh, making sure that they're staying active. Zero Remorse now closing on here towards Noob Galaxy, looking to put that final nail in the coffin as they just try and duck and dive into the containers, putting as much space between themselves and Zero Remorse to try and survive this onslaught.
Oh, let's see what Psycho's going to bring. Already, as we know, over 300 damage secured. This could be that opportunity. A little bit of a jump shot, and that is going to be the ticket being punched right there as Azen secures it. And of course, Ronnie now down on their knees, looking and waiting for that assistance. But Rashi are trying to do the thing around the crates. Oh, up comes a great opportunity. That shotty not connecting up just yet. The S12K, quite a weapon, but let's see what Rashi is going to be able to do with it, as it is a full-on send, and Zero Remorse having absolutely no remorse for Noob's Galaxy.
No, not whatsoever. They took 2 of their team members. They had to come back with that revenge here, DK, and love to see it. Just the return onto that investment for them. It will at least pay off with those 2 eliminations, dropping 2 in return, but overall not too bad in terms of the points that they will be picking up here. In the meanwhile, Freedom still going head-to-head here with Strangers BD, as they're still looking for an answer into this altercation. Ooh, Savrik has to be careful. Giving a little bit of a pixel here to test C9, or G9 rather, might just be what they need to put an end to this.
Yeah, let's see whether or not Zavrik is going to be the freak, as they maybe lock in that angle. But look at the sprays coming through here. G9 not going to let any of these opportunities potentially come on in. And that is a beautiful spray with the Uzi out the window.
Yes, this is what we need. G9 just holding the perfect angle, really applying the pressure to Freedom. So, I mean, as they're trying to close that gap, as they're trying to get themselves into a position where they can either regroup, go for that full-on assault, Strangers, they say no. G9 specifically says no. And now, I mean, if we take a look at this, it's D422, if I'm reading that correctly, up on the ceiling with well, very limited options. I mean, if they do want to make that approach here, Strangers, it looks like they've got their number.
Yeah, well, they've got their number, but are they going to take it, though? I mean, this is still a bit of a position for Freedom to play. They've got that angle on towards Flash and Volt, but G9 just holding such a phenomenal angle could really prove to be quite a bit of a challenger. But I'm also quite worried about DO9, right? The health bar hasn't really moved. They've not yet been able to find those necessary meds to just patch that health bar back up again.
I mean, if we take a look at the D422 here and their inventory right now, I think that gives us a very good idea about where Freedom is in terms of the position. The fact that we haven't seen those health bars recoup yet means that they plainly just do not have the consumables. They were caught up in this altercation way too quickly, right off of the point where they dropped off, and they just don't have the necessary resources really to continue this war of attrition that Strangers are applying here. Freedom right now in that stressful position, both in terms of numbers, in terms of resources, they need to get themselves out of this.
Yep, they definitely need to do that. It does seem like Strangers are slowly starting to disengage from this current position. I mean, they don't have any immediate need to really do that. The zone still allows them to kind of spend their time up here, but I'm loving the fact that Omega Esports have actually taken up a bit of a position up onto Everest, right? This could be quite a bit of a turning point. It's because several teams just towards the northern side, of course, a nice concentration of teams situated to that more eastern edge, but it's all going to come down to where this next zone shift is going to be taking them. And of course, we are seeing a few of the teams now getting ready to mobilize themselves, slowly starting to just get themselves ever closer towards where that next potential zone could be taking them.
Well, that's going to be the opportunity. Omega Esports, of course, up towards Everest, sitting pretty, looking and waiting for a little bit of that information. Again, we can see that mini-map just on the left there now. A little bit of an opportunity for them if that zone does center up. They can potentially hold on to that position, really give themselves a great amount of information, hold off for those rotations as well. But if we do see any of those crazy shifts either towards that eastern portion or the southern portion, then they might have to relook at that plan as we wait in anticipation to see what Erangel will be bringing to the table.
Oh, but I can tell you one thing, though. It is going to be XO Zone and the players here from Meter Shot getting into a little bit of a tussle towards that northern side. Both teams now having to get themselves positioned back into the safety of that zone. But I think this is where things are going to get quite interesting. As we can see, there's still quite a bit of a vantage point to play for. And now it is going to be the players here from Clips before Chicks actually starting to move in. As I mentioned before, we've seen such a phenomenal performance coming through from them in the Campus Championship. So I want to see whether or not they are going to be living up to that reputation, right? Coming in with those heavy hitting blows yet again.
That's going to be the question. But again, if you make that fantastic performance, I mean, surely other teams, they have that idea. They have that same information that we do, DK, and they will be keeping an eye on at least potentially the known locations. But for now, we're jumping into Erangel, jumping into that final day of the week, and potentially those changes might be implemented as the teams are trying to keep everyone guessing. And we do have a little bit of a car chase here, DK. XO Zone, they're just looking for those final eliminations.
Oh, here's Johnny! Johnny flying off into the distance. I was waiting to say that, but now it is going to be Nemesis and the rest of the players here from XO Zone. Just waiting for a bit of an opportunity. We've got Mumbai also now moving up. Pew! Trying to just find a bit of an approach to take here, and I'm loving the way these teams are moving forward, but still Omega holding on to such a favorable angle right up on the elevation, and this is now going to be Gerardo finding such a beautiful setup.
That's the beauty of Everest, right? It allows you to really apply that pressure to the rotating teams. If you're hard on the trigger, if you're quick enough, you could actually reap the benefits from that. And XO Zone now in that position where they're going to be feeling that pressure as they're trying to make their rotation in. Not really very happy with their position. They are in zone, as we can see with the Mega Esports as well, but surely they're looking for a little more of that hard cover. Surely they're looking for potentially a position within center zone, setting themselves up for that next phase shift. They're definitely not going to be looking to contest Omega Esports for the time being. It's rather about staying alive and keeping that longevity here for the team.
Yep, you got to bring it in, right? If you got lost into that late game, oh, not quite sure where you're going to be able to secure then, but because looking at the rotations coming through, we are seeing the players there from -7 taking a very western flank right now, trying to wrap up onto that beautiful positioning available up ahead of them. So curious to see where they're going to be going. But of course, as we can see for the time being, there's going to be players here from B2W. I'm pretty sure that is blinded by Win now, looking for a bit of an approach to maybe secure those angles on towards the XO Zone. But Nemesis having to drop down. And we do see the health bar starting to take a little bit of a hit here.
Oh, you can definitely say that. Nemesis running in red at this moment in time, but at least, unlike what we saw in the case of Freedom, they have those materials to reset themselves, hopefully going to be popping up those meds, getting themselves onto a more, palatable HP. But we do have to take a look at the rest of the teams as they have centered into this next zone shift. It hasn't taken too drastic of a shift right now, still allowing quite a good amount of opportunities. We have a handful of teams outside still having to make their way in, of course, one of those being Freedom, but Nemesis, oh, just as they get the HP bars, DK, well, they go back into the red.
Yeah, definitely go back into the red. But look at this. Mumbai now coming in with a beautiful spray. It is going to be Gamer Goal OP to get sent off, as we saw coming through in that feed. But now, blinded by Win, looking for the opportunity. Are they going to find it, though? It's going to be Ander coming in with a bit of approach alongside Jinx on the opposite end. Such a good off-angle rotation coming through here. But now it's going to be that opportunity for Blinded by Win to really lay on the pressure.
I mean, the 3-1 split that they're running right now really just putting all the pressure here onto XO Zone. We can see that nade heading on through, and it's going to make the connection we need, that Blinded by Win need to get those final two members here of XO Zone back into the lobby. But how are they going to approach this now? XO Zone, of course, they've got the hot cover. They know what's coming.
Yep, Liangzi and Puna having to really keep up the defensive line, as Blinded by Win are going to be sending out those utilities. Up comes the bounce. So scary close. But Pew probably breathing quite a bit of a sigh of relief at this point, right? Just going like, phew. Fortunately, that didn't really connect all the way in, but up comes the follow-up nade. Does find that extra bit of damage onto Pew, and this is now the opportunity for Blinded by Win to really full send it, just to come rushing on forward with an absolute show of aggression.
If I was Exozone right now, I'd just be asking, where did you get all these nades? Please stop. As blinded by wind, the smokes will be deployed and they're going to go in for the final trigger, looking for the final two members. You have Exozone with no little information. They need to scout out this house. They need to get those angles in check and they need to go together or they will provide Exozone the 1v1s. They need to get out of this.
Ooh, it is getting absolutely thirsty as we can see that DBS action is swinging on through. Liang Zi fighting a beautiful hit, but of course getting traded on down. Now it is Ander also then falling and now turns to Legend. Coming in with a bit of a rush, comes through with the UMP and with that slams the door shut in their face.
And look, it was a great opportunity here from Blinded by Wind to actually get that team elimination, but it obviously didn't come without its losses. It obviously did not come without its costs. They will be dropping those two members. They will hopefully at least take the remaining two into this next zone. As you see, they're not too far off with that northwestern shift. Everest still in contention, so Mega Esports going to be very happy with their position right now because we can see all of that traffic moving on in from the southeastern portion, absolutely stacked with teams, DK.
Yeah, I can just hear Freedom shouting all the way up in that northwestern side. I mean, they don't have access to the map feed, but still it would have been so amazing had they been able to see just what possibilities lie ahead for them. But I'm loving also the fact that we are having such a congested southeastern side, right? We can see -7 moving in. We've got the players coming through from Meter Shot. We've got so many teams, even Bope rather, being right there in the mix. So I'm loving the fact that the teams are starting to build up the tension. And now the Care Bears having to play a very careful position. Of course, they are getting contested as well.
Yeah, Red Russia coming on through here for the action, but they have a little bit of recovery to do themselves, hoping to get that res popped off as soon as possible before Care Bears take that final push into the action. Again, just a few nades being sent out now. Those feelers, right? Looking for a few lucky connections just so they can make sure that they are going into as little danger as possible should they take this trigger into the building. But they have to keep in mind there is a little bit of danger lurking in and around the midst. They're not the only two teams sitting in this vicinity, and they could be dropped on in for that third-party action at any moment.
Yeah, definitely a great opportunity for that to come through. But as we know, Care Bear is also one of those quite the, performance-heavy teams that we saw. All that, of course, being based on what we had coming in our championship weekend just a few weekends ago. But now, Care Bear's Frost going to be trying to hold up this front line defense of Red Russia, getting ready for that push. I'm loving the due diligence that is being done here. Both teams just trying to keep that distance. They don't want to get caught out in an unnecessary engagement. But that is, of course, now opening the opportunity for -7 to just creep their way even closer.
Absolutely. Like we said, that danger in the vicinity, -7, just for now going to be staying quiet, waiting for some sort of an opportunity to jump on into the third-party action here. And I mean, the exact same situation is happening for Care Bears and Red Russias. They do not want to be the first team to make a move without some sort of an advantage, either with the knock, either with, that prime angle or a better maneuver to get themselves into the building. Care Bears now sitting with a 2-2 split makes this very difficult for Red Russia to go on either side of the team without putting themselves in the line of fire. Right now they're in a stalemate. They're waiting for an opportunity, and Care Bears, well, if they find enough nades, they might be taking that opportunity right away from Red Russia.
Yeah, well, speaking about opportunity, we can of course see the players there from Manic also now suffering a little bit of damage at the hand of -7. So I'm loving the fact that these teams are so aware of their surroundings. But Red Russia, it's going to be caught up in a bit of that standoff, as you said, right? Care Bear is making it so challenging for them to have a clear line of execution. But there are several teams also then moving through. We do see the players there from Level X Esports also then holding on to that very centered zone. That shift coming through, and now this is going to be that opportunity for the teams on those outlying regions to start committing to even more aggressive rotations. But Red Russia are going to be keeping the pressure up on the Care Bears.
Oh, yes, indeed. They do not want to let go of this opportunity just yet. They're waiting for Care Bears to try and make that disengagement, because as soon as they do, they give up their prime positioning right now. They give up the safety and the numbers that they had with that 2-2 split. That's now a 3-1 split, and they potentially find some cracks in the defense here, looking for one way or another to capitalize and pick up eliminations, at least before the rest of the teams are going to be moving on into their position. As we know, they're just on the edge of that zone, DK. They could be one of the remaining spots that teams might be taking a drive on through to try and get themselves situated. So they've got a lot to worry about in this position.
Yeah, it's going to be a pretty tough one. Of course, we also are taking a bit of a look at that map to see what the congestion is looking like. Freedom is going to be our next team to get sent backing, as in fact, actually, they are our very first team to make their way back towards that lobby. But now Manic holding on their position. They've got the beautiful setup just within the edge of zone. -7 are having to do quite a bit of work to get themselves secured on through. And up comes Dope as they now rush right into the players here from Blinded by Win. Finding a bit of an opportunity to try and capitalize on here, but Jinx now just going to be holding a very weary position.
Oh, that nade, just looking for that connection there onto Blinded by Win. In the meantime, Care Bears, they had a few visitors to deal with coming on through here. We do see Blinded by Win actually being eliminated there as well. Now Care Bears looking to make the second team being sent on back into the lobby, being in the form of old gangsters, as they have one knocked and they need to scramble now to get the recovery.
Yeah, the pressure is on, right? We can see Sure also just going to be holding on to that edge, but up comes Reed now, just popping in and out of these buildings, trying to weave themselves into a little bit more of a favorable approach. But Jaden Frost, the rest of the players here from Care Bears are going to be holding up quite a strong front. And now Stranger still looking for the opportunity. LQ5 also just trying to play a little bit of that third-party peek up on the roof. But it's not been decided just yet. Still such a contested position to play it.
Absolutely, and it's just gonna get crazier. So I have 14 teams still alive, moving on into a very interesting position here, just on the edge of Everest. We obviously do have Omega Esports still situated, waiting for those rotations, but I mean, then that leaves the rest of the map, the rest at least of the space we have available. And again, the zone shifts closer and closer to Everest. It's not fully encompassing Everest, but it is still favoring Omega Esports and their current position. The rest of the teams now, they're going to have to fight for this position in the valley. And right now, Straight Outta are looking to, well, send a few other teams straight out of the lobby.
Yeah, straight out on the ball, keeping that pressure on. We can see the players there from Strangers, BD also then coming in on the edge, facing off against Zero Remorse. And also, to add to that, we have the players there from Meter Shot. So, when we talk about a contentious position, this is definitely one we have developing over on towards the western front. But looking down south, they're still going to be holding on. I'm curious to see where all our teams are going to be looking to get themselves situated. But now, it is going to be Aizen just ducking and weaving through these compounds. But where are they going to be going, right? So many opportunities still lie ahead.
Oh, and they're just looking for more, as you can see straight out in a poll, looking for those final connections. But for the time being, again, they need to consider their position. They are fighting to try and get some sort of an angle into the zone. And who's right behind them? It is -7. As we can see, Sun Min just turning around is going to be finding that out. Not the way that they were intending, unfortunately, with a few lead packages being exchanged, not in the favor that they were looking. But there's still much more danger in the vicinity here, DK. I don't know how they're going to get themselves out of this one.
Yeah, I can tell you it's going to be a pretty tough play indeed. But now it is going to be Fluffy trying to find that approach, right? The edge of zone so close to them. Meanwhile, it's going to be the players there from Strangers, BD, getting eliminated next. And Omega still holding on to Everest. I'm curious to see where this next phase is going to be allowing them to go. As you've mentioned, just that small portion of Everest still being at play. But Johnny, Prince, going to be holding strong, looking to see if they can bring in that extra little bit of a positioning. But man, this is looking like such a difficult position.
I mean, I would say Omega Esports, right? They're sitting on top of Everest just saying, well, what a gift we've been given. All of the action is heading towards the southeastern portion of the zone, and we get a pretty good line of sight while the rest of the teams are going to be taking themselves out for us. Now, -7, unfortunately, are not going to be feeling too happy about the action that is being applied to them. As we can see, Semper Invicta, they've applied so much damage. They're trying to stay alive, but there is just so much to go around as all of the teams are scrambling to get themselves closer and closer to that zone.
Yeah, Semper now having quite a bit of work to do. I mean, they are so far towards that eastern side situated out in the blue, but Care Bears, they are going to be missing out on any opportunities. They now come ripping into Red Russia Esports. Semper, of course, getting sent on their merry way, but up comes Jaden now looking to close the gap as they rush on forward. Up comes Frost flying on in with a vehicle.
No way!
Not succeeding in getting the knock. Is one of the few instances where the vehicles in the smoke really provides sufficient cover. Now the trade is going to come on in. Frost and the rest of the players there at least managing to find some form of an approach.
Oh, we're down to our 9 teams, our 9 last teams here on Erangel in a matter of seconds. Everyone just dropping like absolute flies as they head on into this action. And again, we are still placing a heavy focus on the edge of Everest within that next final zone, as the teams now need to once again make rotations, make decisions, get themselves better situated for this next fight. This is going to be a very interesting one. We don't really have any teams situated within center zone. Well, because center zone is not looking so great. It's out in the open. There's not a lot of cover. If anyone is going to jump into center zone, DK, they're just going to be putting themselves in the line of fire of all of our 9 or 8 other teams, rather.
Yeah, but I want to see Onion do something, right? I just spotted the name there, Manic Onion. I want to see what that name entails, but in the meantime, it is going to be Lazy coming through with a beautiful spray, just keeping the Care Bears from that approach back into zone. Zero Remorse are going to be falling. Mega losing one of their players there as well, as we can see Ghost getting ended, but Johnny gets traded on down. Oh, as the pressure comes through, that of course is none other than the Clips Before Checks team now descending the lovely Everest, looking for a bit of an angle here, but there's going to be fears to fall on next. It is now all riding on 24k, and Alucard looking to keep up the pressure.
Sending out a few feelers once again. Those nades looking for the connection as these teams are heading into the next bat. I mean, come on. That is just a ridiculous nade. Finding straight out in a pole there. Just a beautiful arc into the action. And, oh, Clips White Chips will be very happy with that one. But still, the move into the zone has to happen here. If we take a look at it, I mean, we do have Manic just here towards that western portion, DK. They're well situated. They have a good amount of numbers into this next phase, but they will have to fight it out if they want to take this winner chicken dinner.
Yeah, there's going to be quite a bit of fighting yet to come. But now, Manic, they have the numbers moving in here. We also see the players there from level X also coming through with some decent figures. But it's all going to come down to how they look to prioritize the zone. Manic now trying to strengthen their positioning, coming through from this western front. Oh, it is going to be Shadow GT to get traded as Fears finds such a beautiful angle on towards them. But now Manic in a position where they can actually capitalize on the carnage unfolding ahead of them.
And they absolutely need to. If they can take out level X, not only do they take out the highest competition right now, just purely in terms of numbers, but they give themselves that space towards the southern portion of the zone. And then it's literally just an uphill battle here against Omega Esports that they could be looking at a team v team scenario. But first, they need to focus on level X as Manic looks to have those nades connect after connection comes on through. Shadow GT is down, and now the push has to come through.
Oh, this is going to be Omega now holding such a beautiful angle, beautiful elevation to try and capitalize on. But Carnage is going to be the final hopeful now for level X. Trying to hold on. It is going to be Onion getting peeled on back as the shots connect on through. It is going to be Gerardo hitting those hits, and Maori also just trying to sneak their way even closer. You can see those health bars not looking too great across the board. But Manic still holding on to their numbers, right? Onion not getting finished just yet. But Maori in such a beautiful position here, as there are the only 2 teams. It is going to be Omega Esports and Manic now fighting to the finish. As you can see, the hit coming in. Could this be Maori looking to clutch it up? Now moving forward, looking for those hit markers out in the smoke. Beautiful bit of trade. Great damage being dealt. But now comes the opportunity as Manic comes rushing on forward. And off they go. It is going to be, of course, none other than Omega picking up the very first winner with a chicken dinner right here in the Trick or Treat PUBG Mobile event. What a performance. 9 eliminations to their name.
Oh, and a total 1,276 damage, really picking up in the final moments. They have been waiting for their moment. They stepped on into Everest as soon as they possibly could, and then the zone shifts were just incredible. Honestly, just applying that zone blessing to Omega Esports to allow them in those final moments to really capitalize as they moved on in for the final hits. And, well, it worked out in a beautiful, beautiful fashion for them to pick up that first winner chicken dinner.
Yeah, it was a super contentious performance coming in across the board. I mean, even looking at the approach that Manic was taking there, right? They had such a great vantage point playing from that elevation. But unfortunately, as we know, right? Oh, sorry, that was Omega actually who took the winner chicken dinner coming through from that elevation. So not really surprised to see that working out quite favorably for them, but it was a very contentious performance regardless. I mean, we saw some heavy hitting plays. Even the players there from Level X also really hitting at home, right? Locking in those double-digit eliminations. So what a great way to kick off our semi-finals right here in week 1.
I loved it. Omega Esports, they took a little bit of the gamble there to stick with Everest, but Erangel was just making sure that it was paying off for them time and time again. As the zones progressed through, they really just had everything going right for them. And then just to choose that final moment to jump on in, to pick up the eliminations, I mean, they did such a phenomenal job. Manic, for me, really looked like a very good team there. Moving on in from that western portion of the zone, I felt that they had a really good shot, especially with their numbers, but it came down to that decision between jumping into the action with the Level X, but needing to be quick enough that they did not allow Omega Esports to actually capitalize off of that. And unfortunately, the timing just wasn't there. Level X put up a phenomenal fight as well. So it was very, very difficult towards the final moments there.
Well, that's what we love to see, right? We want to see these teams really working for that. Of course, speaking about working for it, we are going to be taking a look to see who our MVP is on the back of this very first game. So without any further delay, let's look. And it's none other than Aizen coming through there with a very, very satisfying amount of eliminations, sitting on 6. And this is looking absolutely glorious for them.
Yeah, Zero Remorse going to be very happy with that, especially with their contention. I believe it was there towards containers where they had to really pick up the pacing. But Aizen moving on in, just continuously picking up the damage points here. So beautiful, beautiful setup for them, and their team should definitely be happy. Hopefully they can take that momentum into the next match.
Yep, Zero Remorse picking up at least one of the awards there, but we are going to be taking a look at our top 4 teams. There's going to be Level X, Omega Esports, Zero Remorse, and Manic coming in, but these damage numbers are looking pretty impressive. You can see Level X and the players there from Manic, both teams sitting on over 1,600 damage being dealt. Of course, Level X being able to convert quite a bit of that into those eliminations, right? Walking away with those double figures. But Omega and Zero Remorse hot on the heels. Each team then, of course, securing themselves 9 and 8 respectively. So a very, very good start to our very first game.
I mean, you can see here between Manic and Level X Esports, it really does tell the story what happened there towards that final zone. And Omega Esports, they just looked for that final moment to jump on in, and Level X, they had to fight tooth and nail just to be able to survive into those top 3 placements, but they did so beautifully, picking up 10 eliminations. My goodness. Ultimately, very impressed with these teams. A very good set of eliminations that they can be adding onto their overall tallies. So, I mean, if this is the start that you were looking for, I think they've done above and beyond what they needed to really get themselves a good foundation moving on into Miramar.
Yep, the foundation definitely being laid, and all it is going to come down to is what the teams will do in our remaining matches of the day. Of course, we are going to be taking a quick look at our head-to-head. None other than Level X Esports and Omega Esports. We can see some very kind of similar looking numbers that we have here. The eliminations being pretty close, and definitely Omega Esports having a really strong conversion rate, right? Only about 300 odd damage being, we could almost say, wasted, or not being able to be converted into those eliminations. As we look over on towards Level X, it's a little bit over 600. Look, they definitely were staying active. They definitely were looking for those altercations as teams were making those rotations and trying to apply the pressure, seeing if they could get lucky. But there was not a lot of space for them to get those confirmations towards the final moments. And Omega Esports, as we know, they had the elevation literally from the get-go. So it was pretty easy for them once they spotted out a player to get that confirmation as quickly as they possibly could as well. Again, coming through just from positioning, that's what it comes down to. But I'm loving the energy that we're seeing from Level X Esports, and I really want to see how that's going to translate when we move over to Miramar, because clearly they're a very heavy hitting team here, DK. They definitely have what it takes to take those engagements and really be confident. Yeah, I mean, it is going to be quite exciting to see how consistent these teams can keep it, right? They're really going to have to bear it all as we move into our remaining 2 games. But of course, a quick look at our eliminations and damage charts, just to see kind of where the teams are currently situated. Of course, the players there from Dope coming in with the super aggressive players. We can see 875 damage they were able to deal, but only one of those, right? Only one elimination coming out of all that effort being brought forward. So you know, I'm curious to see how all this damage is going to translate into performances come Miramar, come Sanhok.
I mean, it's a similar situation there for Freedom as well. We saw what a difficult position they had themselves situated there, moving on in against, I believe it was Strangers. So hopefully they can translate that a little bit differently. Again, we're moving into Miramar, so it's not like they're going to have another chance to rehash out at Erangel today, but maybe Miramar is that map that they needed, a little bit more space for them to get situated earlier on, so they won't hopefully be jumping into those early engagements without the kit that they need to be able to succeed. And then as we move on later into the rest of the phases, that might be where we'd see a different side of both of these teams. If we take a look at the top end, however, DK, it's a scarce difference. I mean, we've got 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Almost, we just needed a 5 there from Care Bears, and then we would have had a perfect chart, in my opinion. But it's okay. It's okay. My OCD can sit back for now. But it's a beautiful performance. I mean, to step that up, to lay that as your foundation moving into Miramar, I think, you know, if I was in the lobby, I'd be shaking in my boots right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be shaking in my pumpkin as well, right? Because looking at the amount of damage that we've gone, I couldn't resist. Come on, it's trick or treat, right? But it is going to be a curious play coming through for a team like Manic as well, also locking in so much damage there. But of course, we need to take a look and see what the overall point situation is. It's none other than Omega sitting on a very comfortable 24 points, but only 4 points behind them is where we find the players there from Level X Esports.
Yeah, look, they really stepped up for me. We weren't really applying as much focus as we did to them in the final moments because Manic just looked like the better positioning team. But Level X, they clearly put in the work to pick up the most eliminations in that Erangel to apply that amount of damage that we just saw. Oh, it was a beautiful setup for them. But I'm loving the fact that we're still seeing at least a good, consistent double-digit performance here from the top 5 teams, bringing in a very good amount for that next map. Hopefully they can double up on that. Hopefully they can really start to climb the ranks and really not allow this close contention that we're seeing all the way from 5th down into our leaderboard, because right now, again, one map could change it all. We're not looking at a massive gap here for any of these teams because we've only had, well, one map for today.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be quite contentious though. Even Zero Remorse Care Bears, right, hard on the heels there. Only 1 point separating them, well, from each other, and of course, not that much either separating them from the top 5. So the pressure is definitely going to be on, and they have very limited opportunities, right? It's only 2 more maps left. It's only Miramar and Sanhok for these teams left to show us what they can bring out onto the battlefield and just how much tricking or treating they can actually surprise us with out on the battlefield.
It's going to come down to the action that they're going to be bringing through onto Miramar and how they're going to be maybe changing up their strategies as these teams have been going head-to-head during the week. They have a slight similar idea, you know, what we would see. They've fought against these teams enough at this point in time to potentially understand the drop starts, potentially understand some of those general rotations that we might see, but you're still fighting up against 20 other teams, or 19 other teams, right? Not including yourself. So it is a very difficult and contested map that they have to deal with. So we might be seeing those hot drops regardless, even though it is Miramar, just purely based on the numbers that we have. But that's going to be up to the teams.
Yeah, of course, speaking about it being up to the teams, we have 2 more maps to go. Next up is going to be none other than the lovely Dusty Desert. But we are going to be taking a very quick break to just prepare ourselves for all the action that is yet to come. So be sure to stay tuned. We'll be back with you guys in a short few moments. What's up, guys? Welcome back. We're getting ready to move into our second match right here on the Trick or Treat PUBG Mobile Halloween event. This, of course, being the semi-finals week number 1. And so far, first game getting off to quite a surprising start. Quite a bit of aggression they're being shown out on the battlefield. But now, as we prep ourselves to move into the desert, this is where we get the opportunity to see what the teams are going to be doing, as they have a little bit more of an opportunity to play at those ranged assaults, right? My intro is nothing like what we have from good old Mr. Red Ice there. He's always so extravagant with the explanations. I told him that I'm going to try and steal it one day, but I haven't yet been able to achieve that, you know, maybe one day when I'm all grown up. But either which way, of course, is now for us to move over to that desert to see what the teams are going to be bringing in. Now, is based on what we saw coming through on our very first Erangel, right? What are you hoping to see have happen over on Miramar?
I definitely want to see a little bit more from Level X Esports. We clearly see that they are a very heavy-hitting team. I mean, they picked up so much damage and the most amount of eliminations we had. So clearly, they're very confident in their abilities to take those engagements, but we just need to see that actually transform into winner-winner chicken dinner, into that positional advantages as well. And hopefully then we could be seeing some very interesting things happening on the overall leaderboard. But otherwise, I'm still keeping a keen eye. We've had some few shining moments from majority of the teams, basically. So I'm still trying to get my head wrapped around who are the specific 3 teams that we want to be following. I am hoping that Zero Remorse is still going to be bringing in a little bit of that action moving into this map as well.
Yeah, I definitely think match number 2 is going to be that deciding factor. Of course, speaking of deciding factor, the flight path has been decided as we are getting ready to jump straight on through to see what the teams will have to work with. And it's going to be an opportunity for the teams that did not necessarily perform to their own satisfaction over on Erangel to try and double down on those efforts, right? To really lock in the aggression, play a little bit more at those stratagems and show us where exactly they are looking to find themselves. But looking at that flight path, we are going to be having it start over on the western side, over at Trader Park. And of course, it's going to be heading in just north of Impala. So a slightly more northern flight path coming in. I'm curious to see where the teams are going to be looking to get themselves distributed.
Quite the opposite look than what we saw there over towards Erangel. We'll have to wait and see if the zone is going to be doing something quite opposite as well, potentially moving on into that southern portion of Miramar, which definitely is going to give us a very interesting zone if that would be the case. We know the terrain there over towards Chumasera can be absolutely crazy and a bit of a challenge for the teams to work with, which always provides for some interesting PUBG Mobile. But for now, the teams, they're going to be heading to their desired spots. We do have -7 looking like they're heading over to Oasis, which is going to be interesting. And DK, finally, we have that crazy zone shift.
It's not a crazy zone shift. That's an absolutely insane shift. Going all the way down to that southwestern side. I mean, it's not even anywhere close to where the flight path currently is. So if you want to talk about work, this is definitely what the teams will have to do. They are going to be really having to get themselves into some more favorable positionings. But I think this is going to be opening up quite a bit of an opportunity for the teams to play at these angles, right? Because looking at the opportunity they have up in towards Chumasera, up in towards Val del Mar, even Minas del Sur, right? They could really look to strengthen up an early positioning ahead of the opposition.
They absolutely could, but it is going to be an interesting one now for the teams, especially who do try and favor those more northern positions. I mean, looking at, you know, N7, -7, if we're looking at all the way straight out of Nepal, if we're looking at, I believe that is Sempra and Victor or Strangers, they're heading quite north, and now I think they would have spotted out that mini-map and be like, oh, come on, the flight path is all the way here towards the north. What is that zone? So it is going to be an interesting rotation for them. Hopefully we will be seeing more of the teams sticking towards those outskirt rotations if they're not currently within zone, hopefully to try and avoid that contention towards the northern side, maybe coming through in all the way from Puerto Pareso in towards that southeastern portion of the zone. Then they can get themselves well situated either towards Chumasera, you know, Valdemar, maybe even a little bit over. I don't know if they would be wanting to go all the way to Los Higos. That's a bit far, in my opinion, but we'll have to wait and see where they're going to be wanting to go.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many positions open for the grab, up for grabs rather, open for the taking. As we can see, of course, it is going to be none other than Red Russia, also now rushing at the opportunity to secure that very first elim now coming on in. It is, of course, Bad Boys losing out on one of their players here. But, you know, as they say, bad boys, what you going to do, right? How are you going to look to answer the aggression that Red Russia is already showing?
I thought you were gonna go the whole way when they come for you, man. Come on, DK. I was waiting for the whole thing. But yeah, Red Russia, they're definitely looking to apply the pressure, but there is an instant clap back here. And now Amrit is going to be moving on in here to get that confirmation, just punch themselves on out of the situation as the Red of Red Russia now look to recover the situation. They do not want to be starting off with a member down, but that will be the case here. They're too late with that rotation to actually do anything about that. They were way too far to step in to try and save their teammate here, DK.
Yeah, well, you either got to step in, step up, or, you know, maybe move to another position, right? It is still early game, so, you know, no one's going to really look down on you if you apply a bit of an approach like that. But I'm loving the kind of steadfast holding that we are seeing coming through from the players here from Bad Boys. Now it's going to be up to Sasuke trying to find a little bit of that repayment as they are coming in, trying to fortify what Khan is going to be doing here. And I mean, yeah, quite an aggressive kind of front being held up here by the Bad Boys.
Yeah, and they're going to be happy with that one, picking up at least a little bit of an interesting challenge here, because Red Russia does look like they're closing the gap, so they could potentially pick up another elimination or two. Right now, pretty much tied with Red Russia, but Stranger just spotting out the perfect pixel here onto Batra and just taking that perfect angle hit. And now Red Russia, they have the trigger. They know what they need to do.
Yeah, but that's also why you always have to be quite wary of Strangers, right? As we just saw what Stranger could do there. Now it's going to be Khan looking for a bit of an approach here. Amrit going in for that race, trying to bring their teammate back into contention here. But oh, this could be the end, as we do see that M249 at the ready. That is the absolute slay monster now coming in. But here we have it. Amrit secures, or rather, Amrit gets taken on down. Now it is up to Khan as they come flying on in, picking up those trades. So now it all turns to Gil, the final contender left off in the distance. But look at this absolutely insane ranged assault.
Oh, Gil honestly just feeling the action right now. Unfortunately, shot after shot's going to go on through, looking for that confirmation, but the meds are going to be there. Hopefully, they will be able to get themselves resituated. Well, in the meantime, we have Red Russia just getting all of their utilities, all of the materials back into the necessary levels they were looking for. Now, as Gil is going to be trying to make a dash from rock to rock. Yeah, look, this approach right now, it's all they really can do. They do not have a lot of cover. If they literally just have to hope that Stranger's not going to be making that connection, because if they do, unfortunately, that's going to be the end here for Bad Boys, and there's nothing much that Gil can do in the situation unless they have smokes for a smoke run, which they don't.
It's going to be a tough play indeed, but I mean, it is what it is, right? You got to try and just try and survive as best you can, hoping that the opposing team could potentially decide to disengage, but I'm not sure that Red Russia are going to be doing anything along those lines. But in the meantime, we are, of course, going to be jumping over to Clips by Chicks as they now find themselves really close to Omega. And there could be quite a few interesting plays coming through this. As we know, both these teams currently find themselves situated up in towards that Chumacera position. And Clips by Chicks are going to be quite a formidable team to go up against.
I mean, we saw the nays that were being sent on through from them on Erangel, so absolutely Omega, they're going to have quite their hands full moving on into this altercation. Already one going down, and unfortunately, they do not really seem like they have that immediate answer back on into this altercation. Clips by Chicks, they are just slowly but surely trying to close the gap, trying to isolate the members here of Omega into those potential 2v1 scenarios where they can take that advantage and capitalize on it. But Omega, they're trying to keep themselves on active. They're trying to close the gap. They're trying to regroup. It is going to be quite a bit of a tough situation here, as we do see that 2v2 split coming through here from Clips by Chicks, and they are looking to definitely go for this team wipe.
Well, let's see whether or not that team wipe is going to be on the cards. Already, it is going to be Fetty now down. It's going to be up to Maori and Gerardo as well as Ghost. Looking to see if they can maybe piece back together another bit of an approach to take. But I'm loving the fact that the teams are really focusing on that positional play, right? So many teams already taking that plunge, rotating down into that available zone. But there's still so many teams left on those outskirts, left out in the blue, having to fend for themselves. So I'm curious to see where all those rotations are going to be leading toward.
Absolutely. Right now, these two teams, they have all the time in the world to try and find an answer to this engagement because they're in the zone. They're not being challenged. They're all the way here towards Chumasera. As we know, that zone took a massive shift towards the scenario, towards this vicinity rather. So they've got the time. The rest of the teams, they're now heading on in from that northeastern position. And still, even with that zone shift, we do have both of these teams still within zone, still within safety, trying to find an answer here. Ghost so far off from the rest of the team. So potentially looking for a little bit of that flanking opportunity, trying to hold the ground if they do make that approach towards their teammates. But for now, Omega potentially just looking to put the distance to get out of the situation.
Yeah, but of course, Ghost can also always just ghost the players coming through here from clips before checks, right? I mean, there's still a bit of an opportunity to play at here, but I mean, as we know, clips, one of those really insane performers, securing an absolutely crazy amount of eliminations in a previous event. But now it does seem like they are going to be playing a little bit more of that centered game. Instead, are going to be disengaging from that positioning, and that's going to be opening it up to Omega to see where they will have a bit of an opportunity to move towards. But there's so many teams now moving in from that eastern front that I think Omega are going to have their hands absolutely full to the brim with the opposing teams.
It's going to be interesting, I can tell you that much, DK. We still have so many teams just trying to get themselves even close to the zone because of that crazy flight path. We have so many teams out in the blue right now making that rotation on in. I mean, I'm looking at what is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams still out of the zone. We've got EXO. They're still having to make an approach on in. We have what looks like to be straight out in Nepal, still making that approach there from the northern side. We still have what I believe is Strangers BD also making an approach, and we continue that clip on and on and on and on. And now, as you can see, Strangers here, the HP bar is not looking too great. In the meanwhile, Dope, they're looking to definitely set themselves up much better than what happened there towards Erangel.
Oh. Yeah, Dope looking for some freedom as they do find yet another knock. It is going to be those nades absolutely on point. This D422 gets taken on down now. D09 trying to make a mad dash, but it is, of course, not going to be an option there as the confirmation comes through. Rather, the knock comes through, and now it is all down to their final contender. I mean, Clocket's now going to be holding up a bit of a position here, trying to maybe just duck into the vehicle, but it's a full-on scent now from Dope. They come rushing on forward. Look at this, is going to be Draco going for a bit of an opportunity. Oh, can spot that angle on the ridge. Will they secure it though?
They have already just over and above multiplied their efforts on moving on into Miramar. 3 times the eliminations than what they got there over towards Erangel. And again, now we're seeing those damage numbers matching to the eliminations we would expect from a team like Dope Esports. Unfortunately for Freedom, they were the victims in this whole scenario. They had to unfortunately take the hit, and now they're going to be unfortunately relegated to only 1 member still alive, hoping to keep that Freedom banner still moving on into the next phase, playing for those positional points. But this is still not going to be the end here for any team at this moment in time, as all of them are still making that rotation in, trying to get themselves set up for this next phase, DK.
Yeah, and as we can see, it is going to be a heavily contested zone, as we are left with 18 teams looking to cram themselves into, well, not such a big zone. It's only about, what, probably 300 meters, well, maybe 2 kilometers across, somewhere along that. But we know a big chunk of that western side is a non-playable area. Now, it's going to be the players here from XO looking for a bit of an opportunity. They are applying the pressure, pushing and pushing to see if they can maybe secure the angles up on towards Omega, but it's going to be a beautiful trade coming in there from Gerardo as Nemesis gets taken on down. Now it turns to Bombay and what is left of XO to bring in a little bit of that revenge performance.
Oh, just finding those potential angles here. Mari going to be taken on out as well as Omega Esports. Well, they're not looking as good as what we saw them previously. Now, Noobs Galaxy is going to be hearing all of this commotion. They're going to be hearing all of this opportunity just around the corner. So, of course, they will be looking to take a piece of the action here. For now, just looking for information, looking to see how they could get involved. So that is going to provide the time here for EXO to get themselves reset, to get them their health bars back up to the level they need to. And now finding Ronnie is going to give the signal. Exozone knows exactly what's happening. They know that they are a target here of a third party, and they are keeping their eyes peeled.
Yeah, I want to see a little bit of that pew come from Pew as they are now just getting themselves positioned in the compound. But look at the Zero Remorse Ghoul is going to be taking a beautiful position up on the elevated angles here. Just laying a waste. Now making it so difficult for the players here from XO to find a good approach to take. But Zero Remorse also having to backtrack ever so slightly. We can see several teams positioned just north of them, and of course that zone is going to be shifting as well, and that will add extra pressure to these teams.
Oh, just shifting towards that northern side. So now all of this that is happening, all of this contention, this opportunity that's lying in wait is going to be pretty much all for naught, DK. It's outside of the zone. The longer that they invest into this altercation, the longer that they waste their time here, the harder it's going to be for them to actually get themselves situated within the zone, because we know a lot of teams made that southern, shift into the zone. So majority of the teams are once again going to be rotating into the southern portion of the next zone, really just applying so much traffic into the safer positions here. So we can see Zero Remorse already, they hopped into the vehicles, they're getting out of the situation. They need to get themselves situated in that next zone. It's just going to leave the question now for Noobs Galaxy, and of course we have Exo Zone to hopefully make a similar rotation, and hopefully they can get themselves safely situated.
Yeah, but the longer they wait, the more challenging it is going to become securing that position. Of course, now look at 24K, finds a bit of an opportunity here, just waiting patiently with a trigger discipline. Of course, Ghoul now is going to be hit, but the players from Zero Remorse are also then met by the Care Bears. And there we go. Absolutely beautiful play coming through as 24K just locks in that confirmation.
You mentioned off camera what a phenomenal player 24K was, and I mean we saw a similar performance coming through from them previously, but again, DK, all I'm going to say today is the nades have been so delicious.
Of course, Aizen, our MVP from the very first match, now just showcasing why they locked in that play, and up they come with a beautiful spray down, just raining terror on the Care Bears.
434 damage, DK. 434 damage. Literally not seeming to stop at any point in time. It's now Care Bear's turn. Well, they need to respond. They need to get a few of those nade hits in as well.
Yeah, they got to try and lock in as many players as you can. But now it is all going to come down to only Aizen, the final contender left for Zero Remorse. Finding themselves in a bit of a 1v1, right? Frost on the opposite end, but Frost is going to be opting into the vehicle. Still, Clips by Chicks are going to be holding onto the position just west of them. So Aizen needs to be super careful as to how they look to get themselves disengaged. Meanwhile, Care Bears are going to be now applying a little bit of that pressure. We can see Frost moving a little bit closer to their teammate here, Reed, who's been doing quite a bit of work. The players from Blinded by Win, and this could be so close for them to secure that team wipe. Oh,
this is what we love to see. Care Bears stepping it on up, and Reed, my goodness, what have they been doing while we've been focusing elsewhere? It looks like they almost single-handedly picked up the entirety there of Blinded by Win. Of course, I'm sure the rest of the teammates helped out as well, but we just weren't here to see it, and all that we can infer right now is that, well, Care Bears, they are definitely situated with an absolutely stacked duo moving into these final moments.
Yeah, speaking about stacks, right, it's going to be 24K now looking to just get themselves a little bit stacked closer to that more favorable angle, but it's going to be Meet the Shot Johnny now met out in the open as Nemesis and the rest of the players here from XO come through with the pressure, rushing on forward. Oh, look at these angles just opening up. Now it all turns to Prince looking to hold up at least that defensive front line. The XO zone not going to be letting too much of that happen.
No, they are looking to apply the pressure. He already picked up those 4 eliminations, and why not add on to the tally as they move on in Meter Shot. We know they had quite a bit of a car chase there over towards Erangel. Now they're looking to reset themselves up. Boots on the ground, looking for those eliminations.
Up comes Prince, just trying to find that more opportune approach to be taking. But meanwhile, we do see several other teams also getting into these altercations, as we do have a bit of a position being played on that eastern side of the zone. But now is going to be Pew sending that nade across, just trying to pop a bit of smoke to get that coverage secured so they can get that res in and bring their team back into contention, looking to strengthen the numbers. But up comes Prince now, looking to capitalize on the opportunity, riding out the ridge. If only they knew how close they were to getting that squad wipe. But up comes the hits, and that is going to be it. Prince now just locking it in and sending Exozone on their merry way.
Honestly, if I didn't know for a fact that they could not hear you, I would have thought that they could hear you in that moment, DK. He was just taking in advice there, guidance from the little bit of a tweet about there into Miramar, but knew exactly what they had to do in the final moments. They're picking up a beautiful team right there, and now we can see Clips before Chicks moving on in, looking for the final confirmation onto Prince as well, just so they can try and alleviate some of the pressure moving on into this next zone. Again, outside of zone currently situated. They do at least have Alucard within zone, so a little bit of a scouting opportunity for them to get that information of the southern portion, but the rest of the team needs to regroup.
Yeah, definitely going to be looking to bring in a little bit of that. They still have a bit of time left. I mean, that zone is not going to be rushing in too aggressively just yet, as we can see that timer about to 0 on through. But meanwhile, it's going to be the old gangsters now looking to keep up the defensive line as we got straight out of Nepal, looking to push in on this eastern front. But up comes the rush now. It's going to be Pratty on the front line. Oh, a little bit of a sneak punch. Up it comes. The hits come in and the trade goes through. Pratty falls, but a beautiful conclusion comes in as the old gangsters secure the finish onto straight out of Nepal.
Oh, and just setting out a few lovely little bit of a welcome nade, or 2 or 3 potentially. Straight on Nepal, they do have their work cut out for them. Care Bears also looking to stay in this one. Clips by Chicks finally regrouping on that southern portion of the zone that Alucard had actually found for them earlier on into this phase. But now, Dope Esports, again, still looking for them to reset themselves. Already picked up those 5 eliminations. So, I mean, the 2 teams that we were focusing on from Erangel have already reset themselves and put forth a much better performance moving on into Miramar, DK.
Yeah, and this is especially now where the teams on that western side are going to be having quite a bit of a difficult rotation. I mean, I would have said that the western side looked to be a little bit more favorable, seeing that they've got all that elevation to work off of. But now, having a zone shift all the way down to the southern edge, this is why where Clips by Chicks can actually look to capitalize, because they have the numbers, they have the positioning, and all they got to do is just to filter those players down as they come in one after the other. And already we see Fears looking to just apply that pressure towards that eastern edge. The players there from level X, of course, now getting caught out towards the southern side in the blue zone.
Oh, and now the action is going to just unfold as all of the teams are trying to get themselves situated, setting up for this next phase shift. Manic keeping an eye out here on the position of Care Bears. I'm not sure that they have that information, but they know that there are teams lurking in and about their midst, as Care Bears are also just keeping an eye out on the horizon, seeing if they can spot out any of those rotating teams with Clips by Chicks. Oh my goodness, DK, what a jump onto Dope.
Oh, but it is going to be Fierce to get traded on down. It is Gamer Girl also now looking for a little bit of a hopeful race to come through, but 24k pretty low on that health bar. Not quite sure whether or not we are going to be seeing 24k looking to bring in that assistance. Instead, it could allow them a bit of an opportunity to play from that far southern edge, but now it's going to be Dope cleaning house, as we can see Fishy securing that elimination. But up towards the northern side, still heavily contested. Is going to be players here from Strangers PD looking for that reproach as they now come in, but a very, very tough angle to try and play from.
What I love about this is that we're completely resetting that top 5 placement. I mean, yes, we do have, a few similar names of what we saw in the previous Erangel, but I mean, it's Dope. It's old gangsters leading the elimination party right now with 9 apiece each, and now looking to just double up on that one. Old gangsters moving on into Manic territory here as they are looking for those final few hits.
Oh, up comes the nade, and that is going to be forcing the players here from Manic to really reconsider what their approach here will be. Meanwhile, Clips by Cheeks are going to be sent off, and now Manic looking to just show up with the aggression, still holding on to a 3-piece here. We can see Onion and the rest of the team now quickly just trying to patch themselves back on through, but now Manic, or will they be able to secure those plays? Strangers, meanwhile, are going to be just swinging on through. As you can see, the players there from Semper now rushing on forward. But, oh, it is absolutely crazy. It is now Twinkles trying to find a bit of a position to secure But as you can see, Venom, they had their eyes set on that elimination, and that is going to be the end of the road for Semper Invicta.
Semper Invicta, you can drive around all you want, Twinkles. Unfortunately, there was no option in that final moments. And now we take a look at our top 7 teams moving on into this next phase. Noobs Galaxy, what a rotation they would need to make if they want to stay in this one. Coming through from that northwestern approach. And again, it's literally just down a cliff for them, pretty much just fully exposing them to every single team that is within the vicinity for this final zone. So it will have to be a very, very careful decision from them when they will be making that dash. Hopefully they find there is a bit of a distraction. There is an opportunity for them to close the gap. But in the meanwhile, Care Bear is in a similar situation, also needing to close the gap between themselves and that next phase.
Yep, this is of course moving into the Valley of Doom, as we can see up ahead. I mean, this is such like the whole kind of strategy being turned on its head. I like the fact that Dope have secured themselves in that western position, still holding on to some pretty strong numbers. In fact, it is the only team still sitting with all 4 players up. But up because that blue zone is going to be applying the pressure. We can see the players here from level X now trying to make that quick dash. Already the rest of the team being situated up ahead of that, of course, being Shadow and Lazy. But Ultra now risking it all, but Lazy already spotting out a few victims. There's going to be Reed to get traded on down. Up comes Frost, and that is it right there. It is, of course, the Care Bears getting sent on back. Manic now also about to come under fire.
I love this. Just level X Esports, somehow, some way. It looks like they just thrive in terrible positions. I mean, I really wouldn't have put them in contention for anything in these final moments, but with a nade like that from Ultron, I mean, snap your fingers, goodbye. We do say goodbye to Manic as we look at our top 5 teams in level X Esports. I still put them in contention. They've only got 6 eliminations, but they have the zone now, DK.
Yeah, this is Dope's game to win. 12 eliminations strong, 4 players moving on forward, but level X, they've got that zone bless. And now it is going to be Drago looking for a bit of an angle, rotating up onto the high position here. Ooh, beautiful line of sight, but there we go. It is going to be Drago to get traded on down. Dope now down to only 2, as we got Casper also going to be lying on the in. But look at this. Level X looking so phenomenal. We've seen those nades come through, and now it is all about to change as we have that final push about to happen. The zone is not going to be allowing too much more of this.
No, look, when we started this, I said I wanted to see that conversion from level X Esports. We know they're good in fights, but now they need to transform that into a winning game. They need to transform that into a winner-winner chicken dinner. It's only Dope standing in their way from making that happen.
Yeah, and Dope now having the opportunity to get that reset secured. It is now all down to Ultron as Dope lays waste to level X, and that is going to be Dope securing themselves the glorious victory play right there, that winner-winner chicken dinner, and doing so with, what, 16, 15 eliminations to their name? What a showing of aggression, but of course, Dope just utilizing the numbers they had coming into that late phase.
It really looked tough for them to make that approach up the hill to try and close the gap between themselves and level X Esports, to jump into the contention after taking hit after hit after hit. I definitely was looking towards level X Esports more than Dope, but they turned it around just like level X did. I mean, again, we have to remind ourselves, level X Esports were outside of the zone. They had no good positioning moving into that last phase, but they made the gamble, they made the dash, and they fought their way through into center zone position. So it was a really good jump from them. And I'm liking the consistency that's coming through from them. A top 2 to 3 placement in 2 maps in a row. They're a team to beat right now.
Yeah, it's looking pretty good coming through here. We're going to say, I'm loving the fact that the zone also threw so many spanners in the works. But one thing that is not a spanner in the works, of course, is going to be our MVP. So let's take a look and see who that is.
Ooh, okay. I mean, we would come to expect that there's a member from the Dope team coming on through with a beautiful performance. It's going to be Azo coming through with 8 eliminations. Wow. So 8 out of the 15 eliminations, DK. That's what we're seeing on the screen right now.
I mean, it's insane, right? Such a phenomenal performance coming through here from the entire Dope team, and now just showcasing the absolute brutality that they can bring on through. I mean, 1152 damage also being dealt. I mean, this is some pretty impressive numbers. This is sometimes the numbers and the figures that we see come through for a team, not an individual.
Absolutely. So, I mean, just a beautiful step up from Dope Esports, and we were waiting for that. We saw the damage numbers. We didn't see that conversion into eliminations. We certainly weren't expecting them to take the winner chicken dinner, but they made it happen. As we take a look at our beautiful top 4 teams, no surprise to see Dope Esports reigning supreme there with 3k damage, DK.
Oh, I mean, the last time we saw something similar to this was Clips by Chicks over in the Campus Championship. So, I mean, for Dope Esports now to step up and also just showcase an absolute showing of aggression that looks so great. I mean, 15 eliminations and double that based in damage. That is absolutely insane. But of course, we got to give it to the old gangsters as well, right? Even though they got sent out in 9th positions, they were still able to secure those 9 eliminations as well.
It was a really good step up from them as well. I mean, over towards Erangel, we saw them a little bit, just towards the sidelines going out in that altercation. I believe it was against Care Bears. So we didn't get to see much from them. And again, the placement's not too good, but they really did step up the game in terms of eliminations. Level X Esports and Care Bears, unsurprising to see them here as well. Care Bears definitely stepping it up. Level X Esports, just the consistency for me, that just seems to be the main storyline when I take a look at a team like Level X Esports. And we'll have to wait and see if they can make that happen on a map like Sanhok as well.
Yeah, of course, we'll have to wait, right? As we know, it is going to be quite a bit of a change up going from the vast open spaces over into Miramar to that more condensed kind of positioning coming through in towards the lovely Sanhok itself. But of course, we are now going to be taking a look, and we have a bit of a change come through. Of course, it is looking pretty great though. I mean, Level X sitting there with 38 points to their name. We know that the players there from Omega Esports were actually the team to sit up in pole position before we jumped into the second game. So again, that consistency from Level X really paying off.
Now, at the moment, they have that 5-point lead, or gap at least, between themselves and Manex sitting in second place with 33. Dope Esports only 1 point behind them with that 32-pointer. And I mean, just 16 kills, 16 places. I mean, come on, we love to see it. But it's going to come down to what Sanhok is going to provide, and if we're going to still be able to see a shift, because at this moment in time, again, we only have 3 maps in a day, DK. We know how these points can shift so drastically already just from Erangel to Miramar. So now if we add Sanhok on top of that, the close quarter combat map, the absolute chaotic map, I still think that there is so massive opportunities here for teams to jump on in and take the #1 spot from Level X if they can bring the necessary performance.
Yeah, it's all going to come down to that consistency. And as we know, we've seen these teams showing that capability, really showcasing their talents across the board. And I think it's going to come down to what they are looking to bring through in the final map. Of course, as we've already mentioned, it's going to be none other than Sanhok. So while we wait for everything to get locked and loaded and ready to roll, we are going to be either tricking or treating you with a little bit of a break, right? Not quite sure which one it is, but we'll be back in a short few moments with our very final match right here for semi-finals week #1. So be sure to stay tuned. So welcome back. We're of course getting ready for some even more insane action to make its way in our very last match right here in the semi-finals for week number 1 in the Trick or Treat PUBG Mobile Halloween event. And of course, already we've been seeing quite a bit of action coming through in our very first 2 games, but Level X showing that consistent performance across the board. Of course, as we saw, they are locked in to pole position. So it's all going to come down to how the teams are going to be performing in this very last opportunity they have. And of course, what better map to do it on other than Sanhok, the map that allows for a lot of that aggression to come through.
Yeah, it allows for a lot of aggression, but it does not allow for a lot of control. So for teams who are needing a very specific result, who are needing a very good result moving into Sanhok, there's not going to be a lot that they can control into that scenario. We know Sanhok, third-party action, close quarter combat. If you're a team that thrives in the chaos, like I would say Level X does, then you could be absolutely thrilled at ending off with Sanhok. Then that is the map that you've been looking for. But as for the rest of the teams, depending on their strategies, they might be looking at this as the Hail Mary for them to try and just climb and close the gaps on that leaderboard.
Yeah, I'm also quite excited to see what the players there from Dope are going to be bringing in, right? As they came in with such a formidable approach in this last Miramar. So maybe they are going to be looking to replicate those efforts come Sanhok. But as we know, that is going to be just around the corner as the teams will have to show us for the one last time here today. And of course, looking to secure those points, or those positions rather, to qualify into those finals. And then next week, it's a rinse and repeat, right? Teams having yet another week to play through to see who's going to be making it through into next week's semi-finals opportunity here. But as we move on, I'm still waiting to see kind of those teams that we know are really capable of popping off to really bring that out in this very last game, right? By that, I'm referring to like Care Bears, clips by Chicks, or clips before Chicks, whichever one you want to call them, because we have them written up in many different ways. But, you know, as soon as we see these teams really showing the potential on the battlefield, I think it's going to be quite exciting because the leaderboard is very, very close.
Absolutely, we still can see that shift coming through in the last map. We still can see a major upset and potentially Level X Esports losing out on their first place position because another team just had a better Sanhok game. That's why I'm saying the Sanhok as the last map of the day is really going to provide the chaos. I've talked to so many teams that just say they do not like Sanhok. Sanhok is not the map for them because it is so chaotic and it provides so many more options for RNG to really take a hold of their gameplay. So it's going to be interesting. Some teams, they just love it. That's the map that they want. The team that really just brings and thrives on that chaos. This is going to be the Sanhok that they've been needing to hopefully have a phenomenal performance and just jump up on the leaderboard.
Yeah, it's going to be the opportunity for the teams to really unleash the carnage, right? So I'm curious to see who will be those teams looking to unleash the beast and just come through with an absolute banger of a performance. But of course, we are not too far away from seeing what our teams are going to be having to deal with moving up into with Sanhok. Of course, that flight path just being a few moments away. But as we know, right, moving into Sanhok, flight path is not going to be all too important, as the zone will definitely allow the teams quite a bit of access to majority of the map. I think the main kicker is of course going to be where that first initial zone is going to be forming and how the teams are going to be looking to get themselves situated accordingly.
Yeah, the teams have had a roller coaster today, DK. We started off with Erangel having a fairly safe flight path to zone combination. Miramar was the shock of a lifetime, and when we had that flight path all the way into the north, and then the zone all the way there towards Chumacera in the south, so they definitely had to make a dash for safety. Now Sanhok, of course, as we know, jumping on from that 8x8 to a 4x4, it's a lot less space to work with. It's much closer and more contested. So flight path to zone, it doesn't always make too much of a difference, but definitely can give us a good idea about what that final phase is going to be looking like. As soon as we get to those final phases, that's really where those zones make the craziest amount of differences on a map like Sanhok.
Yeah, and of course, now speaking about the lovely map of Sanhok, we are going to be hopping onto the plane momentarily. We are looking at a very centralized kind of flight path coming through here, but as already previously mentioned, that's not going to be the be all and end all of what these teams can do. Instead, we are going to be waiting to see where that zone is going to be going. And as Radars would say, this is our smallest map, right? Far from all the other smaller maps that we have, but this is definitely the smallest one on the competitive scene. And I mean, we are looking at a really decent spread as the teams are looking to get themselves situated. I'm curious to see if we are going to be having a little bit of that hot drop actions. Of course, clips by chicks, clips before chicks, whichever, the clips and the chicks, right, are going to be pushing up into boot camp. And that is a position we've seen them move into time and time again. But it does seem like they are going to be having a little bit of a contentious position or contentious play up in towards that. Of course, the players there from the old gangsters are going to be looking to challenge them for possession of bootcamp.
I mean, 20 teams on a map like Sanhok, I think hot drop action is just inevitable at this moment in time. So Exozone, they're going to be staring down the barrel of a little bit of that contention as we speak, of course, trying to get themselves situated and ready for this fight up against Freedom. As we do see at least one of the members of Freedom out and unfortunately isolated from the rest of their team and looking to potentially getting eliminated sooner rather than later, as a few nades will be sent on out, but they will not be going down without a fight.
Yeah, I'm loving this confidence being shown here by Zavrik, right? I mean, as you've pointed out, the rest of the team being on the opposite end of that waterway. So this is going to be quite a bit of a sticky situation now for Zavrik to try and get themselves kind of out of. But in the meantime, we do see a few altercations happening elsewhere towards the northern side. But here we have the Freedom team. They're looking to bring in that reinforcements, right? Really looking to just fortify the approach onto the players coming through here from the Exo zone.
Freedom trying to hold their line. Exozone going to be making the dash down the stairs and unfortunately finding quite a bit of a shocker. But the shotties will be making their approach as there's an immediate clapback here from Exozone to pick up one from Freedom. And now it's Freedom once again on the back foot here, looking to finally make a stand because they do not want to be sent back with only one or two members actually alive. They want to take the team wipe.
Oh, nice hit going through onto Nemesis right there. And now it is a 3v3 showdown to see who's going to be able to secure Painan for themselves. Of course, also a very centralized position coming through. We do see the players there from Zero Tolerance, or Zero Remorse rather, having a little bit of an altercation with the players coming through from -7. But now this is where all the focus is at as Pubg comes through with a great shot, but also then pays the price nearly instantly as we can see Cloakheads coming in with such a beautiful hit.
Oh, let's keep it on up. Freedom just an inch away from finally getting their team wipe and really turning their luck around here into today's proceedings. Exozone still holding on by a thread. A few nades going to be sent on out in D422. They need to reposition, looking for this final angle here, looking to hit the final nail in the coffin here of Exozone. Now that dash has to come through. They have the shotty in hand. S12K has to make the connection. Will they be able to find it? The jump is there, but down to 10 HP they go. And unfortunately, it just won't be enough.
Well, that is such a risky play, but it's always so exciting to see it unfold as we have the players there from Freedom being the first team having to pack up their bags. But now we are going to be jumping straight over to straight out of Nepal and followed up very closely by the players here from Noob Galaxy all the way towards that northern side. And it's none other than the Bad Boys held up right in front of them.
Oh, the Bad Boys now, they're going to have to see what's going to happen here. Noob Galaxy looking to close that gap, looking to take this position away from them. Again, if you want to take a look at Noob Galaxy, they're very split up. They're really looking for that pincer play here on towards Bad Boys. So for that, they need all of their numbers. Even with that first initial connection, at least on towards Lucy, they still have to close the gap. Hopefully, they will be able to find the connections.
Oh. Now let's see what Bad Boys are going to do as Noob Galaxy comes rushing on forward. We got Batra on that off angle, but there we go. Amrit getting traded on down. Now it's that full-on send opportunity coming through here for Rashi. They've got the DBS in hand. Oh, trying to close that door, but it's not going to be sufficient as instead the door gets ripped from its hinges. Yes! Now full-on send coming through from Noob Galaxy as Rashi closes it out with a beautiful play.
I mean, they're literally jumping and just connecting shot after shot after shot as a beautiful team effort comes through here from Noob Galaxy to pick up that team elimination. That was just poised and precision coming through from them. So love to see that. Hopefully they will be able to build on that and add some placement points to those beautiful 4 eliminations. But the rest of the teams, of course, making rotations on in. At least in terms of the initial hot drops that we're seeing, DK, we're starting to see the teams really finding their footing and for now leaving each other alone to go for that looting phase.
Well, as we know, looting phase is quite essential for these teams to have that confidence from those later stages. But looking at the spread, right, I'm curious to see what's going to be happening towards that northern edge with the players there from Omega. Of course, we got the players then coming through from Noobs Galaxy, still holding strong, but now the Care Bears are going to come venturing on forward. Jaden now getting spotted. A few taps getting sent in their direction, but it's not too much of an aggressive play coming through from the Care Bears, right? Just keeping their distance and instead trying to sip on a little bit of that blue juice.
Hey, it's Sanhok, right? We know these rotations on foot, they can happen. We've seen Hill of Strats being a thing for some other regions. We've seen a plethora of interesting strategies, but Sanhok, in just purely in terms of the rotational distance that you have to take, it is so forgiving. It really does allow those final moment changes, those final dashes into the zone. If you need to get a little bit more kits, it gives you that opportunity right now. So Care Bears, they will be, just rotating, at least sending Frost, I believe, on out in a vehicle to potentially recover their teammate. We'll have to wait and see if that's going to be happening. But we've got 15 teams still alive in this moment, DK. And we're still seeing some eliminations. We're still seeing some action there towards Docks as well.
Yeah, and of course, we've got Noobs, Old Gangsters, as well as the XO Zone already sitting on 4 eliminations apiece. So quite a bit of aggression being shown in the early stages of the game. But now, -7 could have a bit of an opportunity. Of course, they are turning their attention onto the players there from Zero Remorse. Both these teams situated towards that southeastern side. And the Blue Zone is not going to be too kind to any of these teams as we get into these next few phases. Looking at the spread, I'm loving the fact that the players there from XO are going to be holding onto a very centralized position. Also, looking at the Old Gangsters, I mean, that's definitely not a bad position to be set up in.
I mean, they really made an approach there towards Miramar, picking up those 9 eliminations, definitely showcasing that they're just as formidable with, at least for a moment, with what we saw there from from Level X Esports. I got a little bit distracted there with the running, but the team's definitely stepping on up. Now, that action that we talked about there towards Docks between 0 and, of course, -7, they need to now make that rotation on into the zone, right? In terms of the opportunities there for Zero Remorse, they can maybe make a swim onto the island. That's all that I can really think of, because the spread that -7 have on them, the approach that they have, the blockers that they've put up, is not going to allow Zero Remorse much option really, other than just jumping into the water and hopefully swimming into safety.
Yeah, I mean, they still have that bit of an opportunity because, as we know, Manic, they don't have a clear line of sight on that waterway just yet. So might as well try and capitalize on that while the opportunity is still hot. But as we jump back up into Pai None, it's going to be the XO Zone now taking aim over on towards the place here from Level X, our current pole position team. So curious to see what Level X is going to be trying to do and how these positions could potentially maybe try to work in their favor.
I mean, we know this is crucial for Level X. If they do want to take the #1 spot here, they know they only have 5 points worth of a safety net at this very moment. Sanhok needs to be good for them. They need to pick up a good foundation in terms of eliminations and then just do decently enough to keep their gap, to keep themselves in first position. We know that they've been consistent. We know that they've been a team that seems to thrive in the chaos, but will they be able to take on a map like Sanhok on the chin and make sure that it's going to be going in their favor? That is going to be the question here. Care Bears looks like they're finally regrouping as well. We do have Zan taking a lovely little bit of a scouting position over towards Ruin, so they have a pathing in mind potentially for Care Bears. It's just about that regroup, because right now every single member is isolated.
Yeah, you definitely can't play too much on that isolation at this point in time. But I mean, just look at how contested and congested the zone is moving forward. I mean, I'm also loving the fact that the players there from Noob Galaxy are going to be holding on to that very northwestern edge of the zone. Meanwhile, center zone is still where we see the players here from XO Zone looking to find the opportunity. But Level X, they've got another trick up their sleeves, right? They're not going to be budging and falling for the little bit of a potential bait coming through here from the Exo Zone team.
No, they're going to be sticking to their guns. They're going to be sticking to the cover. They do not want to give anything up just yet because, as we know, we talked about this. They only have 5 points worth of a safety net keeping them in first place right now. They can't afford any mistakes. The rest of the teams, on the other hand, they are looking to close that gap. They are looking for those heavy-hitting games to make an absolute massive shift on the overall standings for today's games. I mean, you want to finish off in a great position here in the semifinals for the first week. It really does set the standard and just the tone for the rest of the weeks to follow as we take a look at those qualifiers. So Kebes now regrouping, or at least still in the process of regrouping, but getting closer and closer to one another. Noobs Galaxy just mixed in between them. So I'm still thinking this is going to end up in that engagement. I just, right now, Noobs Galaxy, they're staying quiet. They don't want to step in just yet.
Yeah, it's a very respectable approach coming through here from them, right? Really just trying to play on the position that they currently have. But as we can see, of course, the Care Bears, they've been able to suss out something here. We can see Zan now just peering across the waterway. They know that there's someone up ahead. But I'm loving the sneaky angle being held here by Reed as well. Just relaying all that information, waiting for the opportune moment to strike. And this could potentially mean quite a devastating blow being dealt onto Noobs Galaxy.
Oh, as we take a look at it, Zan just looking for that opportunity on towards Rushy, looking for that angle. As the rest of the Care Bears, they're still a little bit split up, but now they might have I nearly said Nigma Galaxy as well. See, it's the acronyms. it's calling me here, DK. I'm getting fooled. But it's Noobs Galaxy that are currently potentially caught in a trap here with Care Bears, as they are slowly but surely just ensnaring them and circling them. In the meanwhile, -7 now staring here towards Strangers, looking for an opportunity as well.
Yeah, Strangers still having quite a few opportunities. A rather comfortable rotational pathway moving forward. Yes, they have the players there from Zero Remorse, of course, situated just ahead of them. It's not going to be all too difficult to secure that play. Meanwhile, as we look back onto the northwestern side, Care Bears, Noobs Galaxy still going to be trying to play out this position. Both teams, of course, having to still get themselves situated up in towards that zone. But now Strangers BD finding the angle onto the players from -7. But look at the feed. It is where things are going to start lighting up. And this is now what we've been waiting for. We want to see these teams really starting to hit it home.
Yeah, we need that answer. We don't really have a good idea of who's going to be taking that final dash to the finish line here. Blinded by Win, they're still in an opportunity. I mean, pretty much every single team that is finding themselves in a better position within zone is in contention for that win. It's only really -7 that's out into the blue that doesn't really have anything into this next zone. K-Bears, in the meanwhile, looking to close it out here between Noobs Galaxy, but they need to find the angles here. Literally shooting fish in a barrel at this point in time. Noobs Galaxy, yep. I don't know how they're going to answer back to this.
Yeah, I don't really know. As we can see, Alf now just trying to play a little bit more of an aquatic approach here. But as we know, they are going to start running out of oxygen pretty soon. And now they run out of health as the shots come on through. And that is going to be Noobs Galaxy getting swallowed by a black hole. And now Strangers BD going to be looking to secure themselves over onto that southeastern side. Still several teams ahead of them. We can see, of course, the players going through there from Blinded by Win, also having to make a very similar rotation. But up ahead is going to be none other than the players from Semper Invicta. And this is where the challenge will come through. How are Strangers going to look to rotate into this next phase?
I also just want to highlight Dope Esports once again. They're moving on into the northern position of the zone, and currently they've got relatively good amount of space and at least some time to set themselves up, and they're bringing in their entire squad into that northern side. So looking a little bit better than some of the other teams, especially looking better than Strangers right now, who are just taking hits after hits after hits as they are trying to move themselves forward to try and move themselves into the zone. But right now, right in this moment, it is Semper Invicta keeping them from getting anywhere near the edge of the zone.
Yeah, and that's quite a bit of a power play coming through here from Semper Invicta, as they have the zone at their back. As we can see them now going for that 3-1 split, leaving one player up ahead to try and maybe secure a few of these angles. But now Blinded by Win also going to be trying to find a bit of an angle, right? Going toe-to-toe here with Omega, but neither of these teams have been secured in the zone. As we know, of course, it is going to be Sanhok, so we could have a few of those blue zone heal strats come through, but it's going to be a little bit early now, being forced onto Ghost.
Oh, action lying in wait. Opportunity, of course, just around the corner. But will the teams be able to navigate all of the challenges that are just being laid out in front of them? Old Gangsters, such a beautiful opportunity, similar to what we saw there with Semta Invicta in terms of just being able to contain all of the other teams, being able to be that gatekeeper for teams to try and cross the threshold of that zone to get into safety. And right now, they don't want to let anyone in.
Oh, yep, definitely not letting any of these opportunities fly as we jump over to the players here from Blinded by Win. They are still fighting tooth and nail to get themselves resituated back in towards this phase, but I'm loving the position coming through here for Meter Shot, right? Very centered up, but quite a few compounds to hold on, so that is going to be allowing them quite a bit of opportunity to try and capitalize on as we look onto that southern edge. Oh, it is still a very risky approach. Eastern side not looking any better as Blinded by Win now find themselves a bit of a sandwich. They've got a Mega on the one side and the Old Gangsters on the opposite.
Oh, it's a bit of a setup here now for these teams to try and close the gap. Level X not looking too healthy either. They've got one member down. They've got two pretty much in the orange with their HP bars trying to reset themselves. Blinded by Win making the dash right into the Gangsters and their crosshairs as all of the teams are trying to close the gaps. It's literally only Meter Shot that's currently sitting pretty within the zone, not really having too much to worry about, DK. The rest of the teams, they are scrambling for an opportunity into the zone.
Yeah, and the emphasis here for Meter Shot is just going to be trying to hold on, right? All they got to do is just pick up any stragglers that they can spot, letting the rest of the teams on those outlying regions instead kind of deal with themselves. But it's going to be the Care Bears not going to be letting that one really come to fruition here for Meter Shot, as we can see. It is going to be Zan sending out those mollies, trying to keep the pressure up, already finding a little bit of damage on towards Johnny, but up comes Zan now, looking to capitalize, moving in, and I'm loving the absolute aggression being shown here by the Care Bears.
Absolutely. They've been looking for an opportunity to showcase what they are about, what they can achieve, and this might be it, but now they need to take away this real estate here from Meter Shot. They need to make sure that they are the only residents within the center zone, and that will start by finding a connection. In the meanwhile, Meter Shot just going to be sending a nade after nade after a nade as the welcome package, as we wait and see how Care Bears can turn this one around. The rest of the teams, of course, closing the gap into the zone just on the edge as well. We can see the likes of course, Semper Invicta trying to just apply some pressure there from the eastern side.
Yeah, no, speaking about that pressure being applied, it is that zone taking an ever so slightly western shift, moving up quite favorably now for the players here from the Exo zone. So you can see those hits really starting to line on through, and Semper really feeling that pressure at the same time. But again, it's all down to how these teams are going to be looking to play out their positioning. Meter Shot looking absolutely zone blessed initially, still holding on to that eastern side. But as we saw, Care Bears applying a lot of the pressure, moving in, looking to create a bit of a disruption. And now to add to that, we've got Dope Esports also looking to double down on the efforts.
You also know that Level X Esports was sent back, so that means that that spot to get into the first position for the first semi-finals is available. If you can close the gap, if you can hit the shots like Care Bears Reed, just finding that connection through the grass, is now looking for the final hit. It's Dope, and Care Bears will make it happen.
Oh, that was absolutely insane, but it is not over just yet. We still have 6 more teams left to fight it out for possession of the zone. Of course, we are seeing a few stragglers now opting for that blue zone heal strat, but now the main focus is on the zone itself. It's going to be the players here from XO zone. It is going to be Meter Shot, and we're going to be adding the Care Bears into the mix. Of course, Nav, they are from the Old Gangsters, not one to be excluded just yet, as they are making a bit of an approach, trying to see if they can maybe find few of those angles too secure. But here we have it. It's going to be Mumbai picking up the hit as Reed gets traded down. Now Frost, Zan, the final 2 contenders left to defend the honor of the Care Bears. But look at the nades getting sent on through. Absolute pinpoint blazing.
Oh, as we get closer and closer to the end, it is going to be an interesting opportunity here now for Meteorshot. Can they hold on to their advantage? Can they move on into the zone? Or will it be EXO who just take it in the final moments? Will it be one of the other contenders to really kick them out of their residence into that winner chicken dinner placement? EXO Zone closing the gap here, coming through for that southern side, trying to look out for Care Bears. As you can see, Jaden quite out and about, will be spotted with the jump here as EXO Zone hits the hits. And our Care Bears will be relegated to only 2.
Oh, such great shooting coming through here from the XO Zone. And still, they are now holding on to their numbers, currently locking in those double-digit elims. But up comes Prince for Meteorshot, looking to contest, but they are answered with a very abrupt no as they get taken on down. And it now turns to the final contenders. There's going to be Tom and Psycho left to defend for Meteorshot. But look at this, Liang Zi now trying to find a bit of an approach, already sitting on 12. This is that opportunity for XO Zone to look to capitalize. We can see the nades now starting to rain on through as well. Care Bears down to their final hopeful, just left on that northern approach. But now XO Zone going to be looking to play the position. They've got the power, they've got the angles. All they now need to do is just lock in the positions and secure those eliminations.
All they might have to do is just wait. As we can see, Meteorshot, they have to make the dash to EXO Zone. EXO Hold, they have full control of the zone right now. They can just relax. It's EXO Zone for a reason. It's XO's zone for a reason. As Meteorshot, they need to make the dash into safety.
Oh, yeah, not yet, not yet. It's close, it's close. We're just warming up, right? We are just warming up, and now comes that full set as Meteorshot pushes forward into zone. Psycho tries to find a bit of the angles here. We can see Tom also taking that damage, but it is going to be Mumbai now trying to lock down the defensive position. We got PU also now moving in to just try and fortify the approach. It is a 2v2 showdown. Tom, the final player, standing between XO Zone, and that is going to be the end. As it is absolutely confirmed, XO Zone securing themselves the winner chicken dinner with 14 eliminations and 2,400 damage.
It was EXO Zone. Now it is EXO's game. Officially, they take that winner chicken dinner, and an emphatic win from EXO Zone to pick up those 14 eliminations, to add the 15 on top at 29 points a game might mean the difference, might mean them grabbing that first place finish from the clutches of Level X Esports. So we'll have to wait till those overall rankings to see what really happened, but what a way to end Sanhok.
I mean, it was absolutely amazing, and surprisingly, we didn't really have a lot of players being able to really pull off that blue zone heal strat, right? We did see a big conclusion coming through to that, and us, of course, being brought into our final 2 teams, having to show down in the zone itself, honestly fighting for that winner chicken dinner. EXO being very well deserving of that, bringing in an absolutely phenomenal performance. They got to say, though, I mean, the players there from Meteorshot, yes, they made it all the way up into second place, but they were also then able to secure at least those 5 eliminations to accompany that.
So, I mean, there's a good word to go for Meteorshot. I mean, they made sure that they made that early rotation. They got themselves into center zone as quickly as they possibly could. But again, that zone rotation comes on through. That shifting really did favor EXO Zone moving on in from that western side. So it happens sometimes, DK, but EXO Zone, they just thrived in the final moments.
Well, speaking about thriving, let's take a look and see who our MVP is for our very last match here today. Of course, well, I think it is going to be... Oh, well, I thought, but I was completely wrong. It is, of course, none other than Mumbai coming through, picking up an absolutely glorious finish there. Of course, those 8 eliminations, and they are part of the XO Zone team, so well done.
Oh, absolutely. Unsurprisingly, with the crazy amount of eliminations we saw and the damage being dealt, it is not surprising to see a member here of EXO making it up into the MVPs. But we can take a look at our top teams as well to see who really stepped on up to the top there on the side of Sanhok and brought through the best possible performances. Again, we talked about Sanhok being that crazy map, being that map that they couldn't really control much, but it looked like EXO Zone they made it all work.
Yeah, I mean, they had the zone and they just went, you know, XO, and that was it. Right, beautiful victory coming in there for them. And of course, a decent amount of damage being dealt as well, 2,451. But as we look at the rest of the teams, you can see Care Bears, the Old Gangsters, and Meet the Shot still bringing in quite a bit of a contentious performance, right? We've got 9 eliminations, 6 and 5 respectively. But the conversion rates really looking quite acceptable for what we saw coming through in this absolutely insane Sanhok.
Yeah, it's not looking too crazy. I mean, in terms of the damage that was being applied when teams were trying to make that dash into the zone, we saw a lot of that containment. We saw a lot of damage being dealt in those moments purely, but it's great to see that that conversion was still there, especially for a team like Exo Zone to manage to build up those 14 eliminations. And Care Bears, Old Gangsters, and Meter Shot not too far off. They also at least added to their tallies. But here it is, the overall standings. Who were the team to take the first slot, DK?
Wow, I mean, this is definitely a surprise, right? What a turnaround indeed it has been. As we can see, Manic finishing there on 42 points. As we know, Manic went out in 4th place, securing themselves that 1 elimination. But, you know, power to you. Absolutely glorious finish, securing the pole position in our very first week of semi-finals. Of course, the players then from level X only securing few points, and that awards them that 2nd position. But XO Zone coming in so exceptionally strong up the rear, securing themselves a 3rd place finish with 37 points alongside Dope Esports.
And Care Bears, we have a 3-way tie from 3rd to 4th to 5th. I mean, obviously the difference in eliminations and ranks specifically, but my goodness, I haven't seen that amount of, you know, twinning going on an overall leaderboard in quite some time. Omega Esports finishing off in 6th position, Strangers just behind them there with 24 points in 8th respectively. As we trickle on down, it only was really Old Gangsters and of course Semper Invicta really keeping to their slots, but it was quite a surprise to see Manic step on up to the 1st place.
Yeah, I mean, there's only 5 points separating 1st and 5th place. I mean, you want to talk about a contentious lobby, that is definitely what we had coming through in our very first week right here for the semifinals. But that makes me so excited to see what the teams are going to be bringing through as we move into the semifinals for next week. Of course, the teams will yet again have to grind their way through this week to see who will be making it to the stage once again to show us what they really have hidden up their sleeves and how many tricks or treats they could actually surprise us with.
Yeah, there's been quite a few treats today, I would say. I mean, the team stepped up in ways that we weren't expecting. Level X Esports, they were there for the consistency. XO, they were there for the surprise factor. And we had a number of other teams picking up, sending out some delicious nades as their respective trick or treats for their competitors that I don't know if they were quite happy to receive, but it was beautiful to watch. And I'm hoping that action is going to continue as we move into the next week and as the teams potentially come back for another shot to bring themselves through into that 1st place.
Yeah, of course, it's going to be quite exciting, and you guys know where to find it. We'll be back next week, same time, same place, and more PUBG Mobile action coming through as we head into our 2nd week of semi-finals. So we look forward to seeing you all back again, and of course, good luck to the teams that are going to be competing rather this week through their respective days of play to see who's going to be making it up into that week 2 semi-finals. But until then, guys, we hope you have an absolutely fantastic week ahead of you. Until then, stay safe, stay frosty, and we look to see you all back again next week.